Naif, are we going to start on time?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. We are waiting for some to join. We will start by exactly by 10:30 itself. Vikas will be the moderator for the session. Vikas, yes.
So Naif, like everybody has joined, just make Faya sir as a co-host, like so I can start the session.
ध्यान से धीरे धीरे.
Well, I am also here. Good morning, everybody. Thank you so much. But I am unable to sort of turn on my video because it says the host has, shut my video.
We will just sort it out, sir.
You can check now, sir. You are a co-host.
Faya sir has been co-hosted, so you can kindly check.
Okay.
Okay, thank you. Now it works.
Good morning, everyone. We shall soon start the session. So, thank you all for finding the time and joining today's webinar. Welcome to the third episode of a fortnightly YouTube webinar. I am Vikash D, moderator for today's session. First of all, I would like to greet our eminent speakers, Shri Atul Bagai, Head, United Nations Environmental Program, Dr. Manoj Kumar Singh, Director Skill, Madhya Pradesh Tourism Board, Shri Fayaz Ahmed Dar, Founder, SAG Eco Village, Shri Chaitanya Dilip Sangawar, Director, Shivraya Sustainability Private Limited. And last but not the least, to all other attendees present in the webinar. The Ministry of Tourism, Government of India has prepared a national strategy for sustainable tourism in consultation with relevant ministries, state governments, and industry stakeholders. The strategy aims to mainstream sustainability in the Indian tourism sector and ensure more resilient, inclusive, carbon neutral, and resource efficient tourism while safeguarding natural and cultural resources. In line with the philosophy of Life mission, the Ministry of Tourism has launched the Travel for Life initiative for the tourism sector with a vision to position India as a preferred sustainable and responsible tourist destination. By greening the tourism sector through responsible production and consumption, Travel for Life brings to the focus of individual action for mindful consumption of tourism resources. Plastic objects have grown in popularity in the travel and tourism business. Despite being lightweight, inexpensive, readily available, and convenient for travelers, they are still harmful to human health and the environment. The Ministry of Tourism is taking various steps to reduce plastic pollution by implementation of schemes, campaigns, and initiatives on sustainability. In line with this issue, today's webinar will discuss on the topic Travel for Life, Challenges and Solutions for Plastic Pollution in the Tourism Industry from a global perspective. Today's four distinguished speakers will address how industry-wide behavior changes on both the demand and supply sides of the tourism industry to provide solutions for plastic pollution. The structure of today's webinar will be divided into two parts. The first part will focus on the exchange of viewpoints of our four eminent speakers, followed by the panel discussion and ending notes. Let me take my privilege to invite the first speaker for the session, Shri Atul Bagai, Head of UNEP. Shri Atul Bagai, as an UN veteran, joined UN Environment's Ozone Action Program under the Montreal Protocol as a regional officer for South Asia in 2000 and served as a senior regional coordinator to build the capacity of sub-regional networks in Asia and enable them to meet the compliance targets under the Montreal Protocol. In that capacity, he spearheaded and led some innovative initiatives with the Executive Committee of the Multilateral Fund. Prior to joining UN Environmental, Shri Atul Bagai has worked with the Government of India for 17 years in several senior positions such as Chief of Staff to two ministers at the federal level and to Chief Minister at the provincial level. He also served as the Ozone Cell Director at the Ministry of Environment and Forest. Mr. Bagai, an Indian national, holds a postgraduate degree in history from the University of Delhi. Over to you, sir.
Thank you. Can you hear me?
Yes, sir.
Thanks a lot, and I'm delighted to be present today, and I would like to thank the Institute for inviting UNEP. We've been working very closely with the Institute and with the Ministry of Tourism on looking at certain aspects which are going to be discussed today, and we've assisted the ministry in developing a sustainable tourism policy. So from that perspective, I'll try to highlight the issue of plastic pollution and how it impinges upon the tourism sector and what tourism sector could do. And I'll specifically like to start with the fact that the program launched by the Government of India, by the Prime Minister recently, called the Lifestyle for Environment Life, is certainly a commendable step taken by the Prime Minister to create a global movement on climate-friendly behaviors. And it stems from the belief that the need of the hour is human-centric collective efforts and robust actions that further sustainable development. And I think this is the driving force for this very good initiative that the Ministry of Tourism has taken called Travel for Life. Because tourism sector not only gets affected by too much of pollution or the climate change that is taking place or the biodiversity loss, but it can also do a lot to mitigate all these challenges. And that's where I think Travel for Life, where it considers that the tourist can contribute to the advancement of responsible tourism and consequently sustainable tourism development. And I think this is a very important initiative under the leadership of the Secretary Arvind Singh and his team that has been taken. And this is something which will certainly look at sustainable tourism development from a new lens. Plastic waste management, especially reducing or eliminating single-use plastic, is one of the core actions under Travel for Life. And I think that is something that needs to be strengthened. Needless to say that plastic pollution is among the great environmental challenges of our time. And we, every year, an estimated 100 to 150 million tons of plastic are produced for single-use purposes. And about 8 million tons of plastics are dumped into the ocean on an annual basis. And the tourism sector certainly is a very significant contributor to the problems of plastic pollution. As much of the plastic used in tourism operations is made to be thrown away and often cannot be recycled. And that's one big challenge the tourism sector needs to address. Single-use plastics certainly are usually considered problematic and unnecessary and can be eliminated without compromising the tourist experience. And that's a very important point. We need to understand that while we are eliminating these, the tourist experience actually gets better. So in addition to addressing problematic plastics across the tourism value chain, it can also lead to a shift towards innovative and circular business models. And that's a very important part and aspect that the tourism sector should certainly look at. I'll stop here with just one more point, that the National Strategy for Tourism, Sustainable Tourism, the Travel for Life, other initiatives of the Government of India like the Swachh Bharat Abhiyan or the EPR guidelines or the ban on single-use plastics are already in place. And they offer guidance and opportunities for management of plastic waste in tourism sector. I think in addition to this, it would be extremely important to assess capacity gaps, financial needs, mapping innovation and best practices, and ensuing participation of all stakeholders across the entire value chain of tourism sector for effective management of plastic waste in this sector. I'll stop here and then I'll speak something more when we go into the panel discussion. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Next, I would like to invite Dr. Manoj Kumar Singh. Dr. Manoj Kumar Singh heads the Department of Skill and Training in Madhya Pradesh Tourism Board, which comes under the Tourism Department, Government of Madhya Pradesh. He is playing a key role in developing the responsible tourist mission in the state of Madhya Pradesh. Dr. Manoj Kumar Singh's experiences ranges from academia to heading the district and state level responsibilities of the District Poverty Initiative Project of Rural Development Department funded by the World Bank for more than 13 years and Madhya Pradesh Tourism Board and Madhya Pradesh Institute of Hospitality, Travel and Tourism Studies, Bhopal. Over to you, sir.
Sorry, good morning all of you. और मध्य प्रदेश में रिस्पॉन्सिबल टूरिज्म मिशन की शुरुआत जो है वो अभी 2 साल पुरानी ही है। 2 साल पहले उसको हम लोगों ने शुरू किया था और उसमें डिफरेंट प्रोजेक्ट्स लेकर के हमने उसमें काम करना स्टार्ट किया। एक टीम है जो मध्य प्रदेश पर्यटन विभाग के द्वारा इस काम को कर रही है और इसमें अलग अलग प्रोजेक्ट्स में रूरल टूरिज्म है, सेफ टूरिज्म डेस्टिनेशन फॉर वीमेन है और इसमें एक प्रोजेक्ट है क्लीन डेस्टिनेशन। क्लीन डेस्टिनेशन प्रोजेक्ट का उद्देश्य यह है कि डेस्टिनेशंस को क्लीन रखा जाए और उसके बाद वहां पर लोकल कम्युनिटी के साथ में मिल करके इस प्रकार से काम किया जाए कि वह आगे के लिए काफी सस्टेनेबल हो जाए। तो सस्टेनेबल बनाने के लिए लोकल कम्युनिटी को जोड़ करके और उस प्रोजेक्ट को हम लोगों ने बनाया। इसके लिए जो फंड है वो पूरा का पूरा फंड कोको कोला के द्वारा CSR फंड से दिया गया है, और साहस ऑर्गेनाइजेशन है जिसने इस काम को इम्प्लीमेंटेशन करना वहां पे शुरू किया है। अभी इम्प्लीमेंटेशन को 1 वर्ष पूरे हो गए हैं, और फर्स्ट फेज में जो है ड्राई वेस्ट को कलेक्ट करने का काम वहां पर हम लोगों ने शुरू किया है। इसमें मैं आपको बताना चाहूंगा कि इसकी एक पूरी स्टडी पहले हुई। स्टडी करने के बाद ये पन्ना नेशनल पार्क के को डेस्टिनेशन का सेंटर मानते हुए इस काम को शुरू किया हम लोगों ने, और फिर वहां पे आसपास के 30 गांवों का चयन किया गया, जिन गांवों में रिसोर्ट थे या जहां पर लोग टूरिज्म से जुड़ी हुई एक्टिविटीज कर रहे थे, या वहां पर रूरल टूरिज्म के होम स्टेज बने हुए थे, या वहां पर और भी दूसरी टूरिज्म कैंपिंग जैसी एक्टिविटीज वहां पे की जा रही थी। इन सारे गांवों को एक लिस्ट बनाया गया, इनको जोड़ा गया, और वहां की ग्राम पंचायत को, वहां की कम्युनिटी को जोड़ करके फिर इस प्रोजेक्ट को तैयार किया गया। प्रोजेक्ट के तैयार होने के बाद इसका इम्प्लीमेंटेशन स्टार्ट हुआ, और अब जैसा मैंने आपको बताया कि अभी 1 साल से हो रहा है। प्रोजेक्ट में जो मेन एक्टिविटीज हैं जो इम्प्लीमेंटेशन में हैं, उनमें सबसे मेजर एक्टिविटीज है अवेयरनेस की, क्योंकि वहां पे काफी गरीब पॉपुलेशन थी और वो लोग काफी मतलब एक मैक्सिमम लोग जो है वो BPL की श्रेणी में आते थे। तो IEC और अवेयरनेस कैंपेन हम लोगों ने वहां पे स्टार्ट किया। दूसरा वेस्ट कलेक्शन और ट्रांसपोर्टेशन वहां पे स्टार्ट किया। जैसा मैंने आपको बताया कि फर्स्ट फेज जो है वो ड्राई वेस्ट का था, तो उसका वेस्ट कलेक्शन और ट्रांसपोर्टेशन हमने स्टार्ट किया। उसके बाद में इंफ्रास्ट्रक्चर रिक्वायरमेंट हम लोगों ने देखा कि उस 30 विलेज में कहाँ कहाँ पर इंफ्रास्ट्रक्चर की रिक्वायरमेंट है और किस किस प्रकार की है। सेग्रीगेशन के सेट्स बनाने हैं या प्रोसेस करने के लिए कुछ सेट्स बनाने हैं, उसके लिए हम लोगों ने वहां पर इंफ्रास्ट्रक्चर के लिए लैंड जो है लैंड ऑक्युपाई करना और गवर्नमेंट के साथ में लैंड एक MOU करके लैंड को उपलब्ध कराना। और इसके बाद चौथा जो हमारा वो था वो एंड डेस्टिनेशन फॉर द ऑल वेस्ट कैटेगरीज, उसको ले जाके वहां पहुंचाना। ये फर्स्ट फेज का हमारा उद्देश्य है। इसमें हम आपको बताना चाहेंगे कि इसमें कोको कोला, साहस और मध्य प्रदेश टूरिज्म ट्राई पार्टी एग्रीमेंट के साथ जुड़ा हुआ है। इम्प्लीमेंटेशन जो है वो साहस कर रहा है। इवन जो गैप है और जो लीगलिटीज है और जो गवर्नमेंट के साथ में जो गवर्नमेंट लैंड को लेना है, गवर्नमेंट लैंड के साथ ग्राम पंचायत का कोऑर्डिनेशन कराना है या लोकल एडमिनिस्ट्रेशन के साथ कोऑर्डिनेशन करना है, ये सारा काम जो है वो हम लोग कर रहे हैं, मतलब गवर्नमेंट के MP टूरिज्म बोर्ड कर रहा है। इसके अलावा फंडिंग पार्ट जो है वो कोको कोला देख रहा है और फंड जो है कोको कोला ने दिया है। तो एक तरह से एक ये कन्वर्जेंस मॉडल है जिस मॉडल को लेकर के हम लोग कर रहे हैं काम। इसमें मध्य प्रदेश का जो ग्रामीण स्वच्छता मिशन कार्यक्रम है, SBM है, वो लोग भी हमारे साथ में एज गवर्नमेंट पार्टनर हमारे साथ में जुड़े हुए हैं। तो इसमें ट्रेनिंग और कैपेसिटी बिल्डिंग प्रोग्राम्स, इसके अलावा जो हम लोगों ने फोकस किया है वो स्कूल ट्रेनिंग, स्कूल में ट्रेनिंग करना, रात में मीटिंग्स करना, डोर टू डोर कैंपेन करना और उनका कुछ अनाउंसिंग प्राइज एंड गिफ्ट। इसके अलावा ट्री प्लांटेशन को इसमें शामिल किया गया है और बहुत सारी कम्युनिटी से जुड़ी हुई एक्टिविटीज को इसमें जोड़ा गया है, इसमें डाला गया है। और जैसे वॉल पेंटिंग है, स्टोन पेंटिंग है, पोस्टर्स हैं और बैनर्स हैं और बिलबोर्ड्स हैं, पंपलेट्स हैं, सजेशंस है, स्टिकर्स हैं, बैग्स कलेक्शंस हम लोगों ने दिए हुए हैं। वहाँ व्हीकल डिस्प्ले किया हुआ है, व्हीकल भी इसमें शामिल है, स्ट्रीट प्ले है, सेलिब्रेट। और ये सारे काम जो हैं वो वहाँ के लोकल कम्युनिटी के साथ में, ग्राम पंचायत के साथ में, स्वच्छता मित्र हम लोगों ने खुद बनाए हैं जो, और पहले से जो गवर्नमेंट के रिप्रेजेंटेटिव वहाँ पे हैं, आंगनवाड़ी कार्यकर्ता हैं और टीचर्स हैं, उनके साथ में मिलकर के इस प्रोग्राम को बनाया गया है। तो ये एक मॉडल था जो हम लोगों ने अभी किया है। इसका 1 साल अभी और बचा हुआ है। 1 साल के बाद इसका जो सेकंड फेज आएगा, सेकंड फेज जो होगा वो वेस्ट मैनेजमेंट को लेकर के होगा। तो इस तरह से ये मध्य प्रदेश पर्यटन बोर्ड के द्वारा एक काम किया जा रहा है। जो मडला पन्ना का जो पन्ना टाइगर रिजर्व का जो गेट है, मडला को बेस मानते हुए, और वहां पर उनके आसपास के चारों तरफ के 30 गांवों को इसमें शामिल किया गया है। तो ये एक प्रयास है जो मध्य प्रदेश पर्यटन बोर्ड के द्वारा किया गया है। इसमें स्वच्छ, जैसा मैंने आपको बताया, स्वच्छ भारत मिशन के जो ग्रामीण है उसके लोग हमें गांव में मदद कर रहे हैं, और टेक्नोलॉजी को लेकर के स्वच्छ भारत मिशन जो अर्बन एरिया का है वो लोग हमें टेक्नोलॉजी और ग्रुप्स बनाना और ट्रेडिंग कैपेसिटी बिल्डिंग कैसे करनी है, किस तरीके से हमें मतलब अपने मतलब जो टेक्निकल पार्ट है उसका सपोर्ट जो है हमको SBM से मिल रहा है। तो इतना हमारी तरफ से है, और इसके अलावा यदि आपके कोई क्वेश्चंस होंगे तो उसके लिए हम तैयार हैं।
Thank you for sharing your works with MP Tourism Board, sir. Next, I would like to invite Shri Fayaz Ahmed Dar. Shri Fayaz Ahmed Dar, an award-winning ecological entrepreneur from Kashmir, coaches individuals and organizations to develop an extraordinary mindset and entrepreneurial skills for sustainability. With over 20 years of experience in multicultural settings, having worked with over 10 different organizations and traveled to over 20 countries, in 2012, he founded SAG Eco Village, a first of its kind initiative in Kashmir, to promote ecological entrepreneurship and build integrative and regenerative lifestyles. He has engaged over 10,000 people in participatory, personal, and community transformation and is passionate about exploring human potential, personal development, ecological entrepreneurship, and regenerative travel. Over to you, sir.
Thank you, Vikas ji, and good morning, everybody. It's a pleasure to be here and an honor to listen to other eminent speakers. And SAG Eco Village, as Vikas ji was saying, is J&K's first eco village experiment. And SAG is a Kashmiri word for nurturing, for watering. Obviously, I was also listening to the recordings of the earlier panel discussions about this topic, and I see a lot of the problems have been highlighted and a lot of other alternate solutions have also been talked about, and a lot of people are invested, like your good selves, in addressing the problem. And so from my perspective, I would try to highlight something that I think needs to be highlighted. Obviously there are policies in place and that are being implemented, and the implementation is at various stages and various levels happening, and new policies are being framed, and this initiative is part of that, and we are glad to see that. But as a community operator, I think it's a much deeper and wider problem than only of the tourism, because I think the plastic use has overtaken our whole lifestyle, and it's not just the tourists that are responsible for it. Of course, tourism creates a huge plastic waste, but the lifestyle of the local communities, as I see, we are based here in the rural part of Kashmir, even the locals are confused about how to treat plastic and how to process it. So when a local, as a person who lives in the community, is also sort of creating the problem when they don't have the solutions, it is also sort of tourists sometimes who are very sensitive. They are disappointed by the local experience because they see a lot of plastic everywhere and around. So it's I think we need an integrated approach to address the problem. So on the one hand, obviously the tourists can be made aware, and all our expeditions, all our travel expeditions are by design sort of plastic collection ventures. When we take people up on cultural walks or up the mountains on treks, by design, a core component of the trek is that we have to contribute to the local community in terms of collecting the trash, collecting the plastic waste that has been thrown around by tourists as well as by locals, unfortunately. So that if a tourist group, if a traveler group does that, and the locals see that, then they also sort of are sensitized in that respect. So that is in our, for example, work, that is one of the elements that we have sort of incorporated in all our travel expeditions. On the other side, we are also experimenting with recycling and upcycling. For example, the eco village that we have built, We have tried to create, for example, from flower pots to lampshades to using the plastic waste as fillers in the construction. And we continuously kind of, try to think about new ways how that can happen. But I think essentially it is a problem that is much widespread, and probably one element that I want to highlight, in addition to what has already been said and discussed, is that the Department of Tourism probably can, on this aspect of pollution and especially plastic pollution, can work with other local stakeholders, for example, the municipality council or the panchayats or whatever infrastructure is in place in all the places, to come up and implement the policy comprehensively. So I think I would highlight that. And then the other aspect I wanted to highlight is also because of the increased pressure. I see the local stakeholders who are part of the tourism operators, as we call them, be the travel agents, be they the guiding organizations or trekking expedition organizers. They also feel under a lot of stress because of the competition. They have to the rates or the prices are sort of almost cutthroat. So they are also unable to pay attention to the problems that they are creating in the process, because they want to minimize their costs. So I think if some attention could also be paid to that aspect, so because if it is the operators, the tourism operators are the on the ground agents of the department, in a sense of the so they can, if they are incentivized somehow to bring it into their, I see a lot of policies are being implemented, and there is some work towards that end. But I think more there's more scope to do more work there, to sensitize the tourism operators, and so these 2 points I would highlight for now, and I would be happy to sort of contribute to the questions later on. So one is an integrated approach, and the other is the tourism operators could be incentivized to address the problem at their level as well. So thank you.
Thank you, sir, for sharing your valuable feedback from your end of perspective. Surely these things will be clearly noted with us, and we will take it to the ministry. So next, I would like to invite Mr. Chaitanya Dilip Sangawar. Mr. Chaitanya Dilip Sangawar is primarily an environmental professional. He has an international and national experience of over 20 years in the field of climate change, policy, rural development, and solid waste management, with some of the leading organizations in the field such as UNFCCC, MNRE, UNDP, Ashton Sea Foundation, Cantor CO2E, etc. With his strong exposure to community, administration, and technologies, he brings in an interesting outlook of ground realities, challenges, and possibilities. He believes solid waste management, or more specific, plastic waste management, needs to be tackled at a local level in a systematic manner with the generic approach, especially when considering specific sectors such as tourism industry. Over to you, sir.
Hello, thank you, Vikas, for the sweet words. And first of all, thank you, Ministry of Tourism, Government of India, and Central Nodal Agency for Sustainable Tourism for inviting me to be a panelist on this beautiful panel with eminent people. Namaskar, Atul Bagai ji, Manoj Singh ji, and Rayaz ji. And it's interesting to be in the midst of seniors who we look out to, and given our inputs. So a little bit, I'll be a little bit careful when I'm putting forth my things. These are experiences that I share. Vikas, is it by any chance, can we just put in those 4 slides? Is it possible? Or it's okay. Just let it be.
Actually, if you were prepared, it will be easy.
Well, I had pushed it across. It's okay. Nonetheless, I'm coming in from, actually, most of the points have already been shared by the eminent panelists out here. I would share my experience coming in for having stayed and worked abroad in different locations and being an avid traveler. I spent a considerable amount of time in Southeast Asia, where the typical destinations would be where I lived have been the places like Bali, Krabi, you name it, Fifi, or Kilimanjaro, you name it. Now the beautiful thing is coming in as a climate change or a carbon professional. These were the points which I could immediately see a good decade and a half back, even before plastic as an issue was really picked up by UN or GRI or sustainability had come into picture. And we could clearly see Fifi coming into picture, the islands, and then absolutely crashing down and had to be shut down because the ecosystem could not really manage the inflow of people. That showed that it was an unplanned tourist destination that came thanks to James Bond movies. The other was I saw at, I personally, I'm an avid scuba diver. So I've done my scuba dives in one of the best diving spots. One is Bunaken Island in a remote archipelago of Indonesia, some 4 hours of flight from Jakarta, Java Island. And it was fascinating to see that the first thing when you dive down at a good height of 10 meters, at a depth of 10 meters, the first thing that you see in the midst, before you see the corals, is plastic floating or plastic stuck there. And you can see which brand is so popular. Now the thing is, and to say to it that this is possibly, it is said, it is not the plastic from the island, but the plastic has washed away all the way from Java Island, which is 4.5 hours flight away. I'll add one more point before I jump into it, is while trekking to the base camp at Everest, there were more than 10 metric tons of plastics among the waste that has been pulled out. Maldives, a typical travel destination, has which is 90% water, has 860 metric tons of plastics on a trash island, and they're clueless what to do, how to do, and they're pretty popular in the COP events that come up every year. They're clueless. They're trying their level best. They're tackling something, but then again, solid waste is another issue. Now, what I'm trying to, why am I giving all these examples is that these are all tourist destinations of international stature, because as the topic says, from the global perspective. And why don't we pick it up from all of them and then look out at what is a travel destination and how do we develop a travel destination? Is it this just by saying that we will make it green, we'll make it clean? No, it won't work out. Working on the rural development side with the communities, working on Swachh Bharat Mission projects, avenues, and solid waste management, what we see, as Faiz has said and as the seniors have said, that it has to be, everyone has to come into picture. As I had seen the MP Tourism Initiative, as Manojji had said, it is a fantastic initiative where we have all the schemes in place. We have beautiful administration, and each of the administration's departments have their own individual goals, and they are implementing it. However, the bridge is missing. And the biggest role player, I won't put an onus on any of the department, but I would say who is the biggest benefactor in the whole game is the community. So who should call the shots? It should be the community. Who should and what is the role that an entity can play or an ecosystem can play, is that the ecosystem has to connect all the dots and show it to the community that you are the interested people, because you make or break, like Fifi, either it will go away or it will stay, whether you work out. And that's when the different departments are brought in and the bridges are connected. Now, when we connect all these dots, then all the beautiful words like circular economy and everything starts making sense, because once the basics are in place, next you move to the thing as how do we check everything? Are we balancing the resources? Is the biodiversity really disturbed? Are we taking in the right amount from the local biosphere? How much is coming from outside? Do we? And then again, who is the biggest culprit and God? The biggest culprit and God here is the traveler, the tourist himself. So whether he should be fined or whether he should be appreciated, I would say is the baton and the carrot should go together. And who again plays the biggest role? The community. Once the community is entrusted with the right kind of capacity building, the training, and the importance and its role is established, the community also understands what are its rights and how it can manage its rights and existence for its future existence. And in this whole game, corporates can come into picture as we are seeing in Madhya Pradesh, and definitely they have to come in. And I have a different take on EPR, that CSR definitely, but EPR can play a big role in the big tourist destinations for the reason that at the end of the day, it's EPR, and EPR is finance and credits. So an entity can come into picture and say, this destination, I'll take care, my EPR is on these lines. So that's a fantastic brand building that can happen for an organization. So these are my inputs from my side, and as things come up, I can definitely jump in and pull it. Thank you, Vikas, over to you.
Yeah. Thank you for sharing your valuable insights, sir. Next, let's go to the second session. Let's move on to the question and answer session. We will start with a question to our first speaker. The first question will be directed to Shri Atul Bhagat. COVID-19 has had a severe economic impact in terms of governments trying to manage the health crisis and contain the virus while trying to keep the economies functioning. As the world's leading authority on environment, UNEP plays a key role in the achievement of the Sustainable Development Goals. UNEP's India office is working on various aspects of this mandate to support sustainable development priorities, specifically to beat plastic pollution like the countermeasure project in Ganga, Tider Turner Plastic Challenge, etc. Although the use of single-use plastic is banned still, it is seen used publicly. What strong implementation mechanism can be suggested against it?
Thank you for asking that very important question. And this is something that is being seen all around us on a daily basis, and is something that is also engaging each and every one of us on a daily basis. But as I had highlighted earlier, while policies and mechanisms are in place for phase out of single-use plastic, and as I said earlier, it would also be important to assess the capacity gaps, the financial needs, the mapping innovation and best practices, and ensuring participation of all stakeholders across the entire value chain of tourism sector for effective management of plastic waste in the tourism sector. And I think that's very important to look at. I think in addition to this, it would also be very important to offer practical alternatives and solutions for the elimination of plastic pollution. Best practices should also be documented, popularized, and replicated. I think another very important and critical aspect which tourism sector should look at is, and the tourism industry, is sustainable procurement can play a strategic role transforming tourism by scaling up the market of sustainable products and services in the sector, enabling the reduction of GHG emissions, and also the shift towards a more resilient, resource-efficient development. And finally, I think adopting a life cycle approach when assessing the alternatives to single-use plastic is critical to overcome the investment costs that may require. And developing evaluation tools and guidelines based on life cycle thinking, targeting corporate buyers who would support this effort, is a very good way of moving forward. I'll stop here.
Thank you, sir. My next question is directed to Dr. Manoj Kumar. A dirty city can be uninviting and hence a huge turnoff for tourism. In India, some cities have been successful in maintaining cleanliness and hygiene across districts and towns. These cities have been documented under Swachh Survekshan a yearly survey conducted by the Ministry of Housing and Urban Affairs. Indore is the cleanest city in India this year, and Bhopal has the pioneer project in plastic recycling. With recycling or biodegradable plastics, is it possible to solve the problem of tourism-related plastic pollution?
Yes, थैंक यू विकास जी। यदि हम इस बात को करें कि मध्य प्रदेश में जो प्लास्टिक सॉल्यूशन के लिए काम किया गया है, वो निश्चित रूप से हमारे अर्बन स्वच्छता मिशन कार्यक्रम के अंतर्गत बहुत अच्छा काम किया गया है। और इसकी शुरुआत 2006 में हुई थी। 2006 में जो रैक पिकर्स थे, उनकी पहले उनका सर्वे किया गया, और उनके सर्वे करने के बाद उनको रैक पिकर्स को कम्युनिटी से जोड़ा गया। तो मुझे ये मतलब मैं आपको बताना चाहता हूँ कि सबसे पहले 2006 में करीब 1465 रैक पिकर्स को का सर्वे किया गया, उनको लिस्टिंग की गई और उनको ट्रेन किया गया कि वो किस प्रकार से अपने सामान को उठाएंगे। और बहुत अच्छे तरीके से करीब 6 सेंटर्स बनाए गए, और पॉल्यूशन बोर्ड, मध्य प्रदेश पॉल्यूशन बोर्ड के साथ में उन्होंने एग्रीमेंट किया। तो जो यहाँ पर कन्वर्जेंस की वो है, वो भी प्रक्रिया जो है वो अर्बन डेवलपमेंट डिपार्टमेंट के स्वच्छ भारत मिशन ने पूरी की, और यहाँ पर 6 सेंटर्स बनाकर इन्होंने काम को शुरू किया। 2008 में इन्होंने प्लास्टिक वेस्ट को रिसाइकिल किया, इसको खत्म करने का प्रयास किया, और 2010 में इन्होंने पूरे प्रदेश में काम करना शुरू किया, और पहली बार जो सिंगल यूज प्लास्टिक था उसको इन्होंने रोड बनाने के काम में उपयोग किया। मैं आपको बताना चाहता हूँ कि जो इन्फॉर्मेशन मुझे मिली है उस डिपार्टमेंट से, वो ये है कि उन्होंने रोड कंस्ट्रक्शन में इसका उपयोग किया, जिससे रोड जो है वो उसकी लाइफ ज्यादा बढ़ गई, लगभग 3 गुना लाइफ बढ़ जाती है, और लागत भी कम आती है। इस तरह से लगभग 15,000 से अधिक किलोमीटर रोड जो है इस पर अभी तक बनाई जा चुकी है, और जिसके रिजल्ट्स बहुत अच्छे हैं। तो इस प्रकार से ये मॉडल सक्सेस हुआ, और सक्सेस होने के बाद आज की ये स्थिति है कि लगभग 17,000 से अधिक महिलाएं, 17,000 से अधिक रैक पिकर्स इसमें जुड़े हुए हैं, जिसमें 80% महिलाएं हैं। और जो उनकी इनकम पहले 70-80 रुपीज थी, वो बढ़ करके अब 400 and 500 रुपीज हो गई है, क्योंकि ये पर केजी परचेज करते हैं। अलग अलग प्लास्टिक के प्रकार को, अलग अलग चीजों को ये लोग कर रहे हैं। और भोपाल में तो 4-5 मशीनें लगाई गई हैं। भोपाल में पर्यावरणविद हैं मिस्टर इम्तियाज अली, जिन्होंने इस काम को बहुत अच्छे तरीके से अंजाम दिया है। आज वो हमारे साथ इसमें जुड़े हुए भी हैं। आगे की यदि कोई मॉडल बनाने की बात होगी या कोई वर्कशॉप करने की बात होगी, तो हम लोग उनको साथ में लेकर भोपाल में कर सकते हैं। और इसके बाद उनकी इनकम बढ़ गई, और आज ये स्थिति है कि देश में लगभग 4 लाख से अधिक रैक पिकर्स जो हैं महिलाएं हैं, और उनमें ये लोग बहुत अच्छे तरीके से काम कर रहे हैं। और यही कारण है कि मध्य प्रदेश में भोपाल शहर के मॉडल को कई देशों में और कई शहरों में इसको अडॉप्ट किया गया है। और इसको अडॉप्ट करने के बाद करीब 17 नेशनल और इंटरनेशनल अवार्ड्स इनको मिले हैं, और इसी काम के लिए मिले हैं। तो ये मेरी तरफ से ब्रीफ है। और जो प्लास्टिक को ले करके उसको साफ करके, उसको उसके ब्लॉक्स बना करके, और उसके कटिंग्स कर करके, उसको पैक करके, और फिर ट्रक से ये ट्रांसपोर्ट करते हैं, और उसके रिसाइकिल करते हैं, और रिसाइकिल करने के बाद उसके बहुत सारे प्रोडक्ट बना रहे हैं। निश्चित रूप से ये मॉडल जो है वो एक सफल मॉडल है, और हम इसको रिप्लिकेट कर सकते हैं। आज तक, अभी तक जो है वो एक जो विभाग के पास में सूचना है, उसमें करीब 13 देशों में और 5,000 से अधिक सिटी में इसको रिप्लिकेट किया गया है। तो ये एक अच्छा प्रयास है जो भोपाल में किया गया। और इंदौर, निश्चित रूप से आप सभी लोग जानते हैं कि इंदौर पिछले 7 सालों से लगातार वो अपना स्थान बनाए हुए है। और अब जो सबसे बड़ी चीज इसमें समझ में आती है वो ये आती है कि भोपाल में भी जो मॉडल है वो भी कम्युनिटी बेस्ड है, और जो इंदौर का मॉडल है वहां पर भी कम्युनिटी को ही तैयार किया गया है। और आज ये स्थिति है कि आज इंदौर में जो नागरिक है, हर नागरिक अपने इंदौर को स्वच्छ रखने के लिए, खुद को करने के लिए गर्व महसूस करता है, और लोगों को यह प्रोत्साहित करता है कि वह जो है वो कचरा को सही जगह में फेंकें और डालें। तो इस तरह से ये कलेक्शन मैनेजमेंट और डिस्पोजल मैनेजमेंट को आसान बनाया गया है कम्युनिटी को लेकर के। और निश्चित रूप से कम्युनिटी ही हमारा सबसे बड़ा स्टेक होल्डर है। तो इसमें कम्युनिटी और स्थानीय लोगों के साथ जो टेक्नोलॉजिकल उपयोग किया गया है वो महत्वपूर्ण है। इस तरह से मतलब हाँ, थैंक यू विकास जी। इस तरह से इस गंदगी को खत्म करने का प्रयास किया गया है मध्य प्रदेश में, जो मैंने आपको बताया, और इसको निश्चित रूप से रिप्लिकेबल है।
Thank you, sir. Next, I would like to direct my question towards Mr. Fayaz. My question is, what are the challenges you have faced when encouraging tourists to reduce their plastic usage during their visit to the naturally sensitive areas, and how do you overcome these challenges?
Ji, thank you for your question, Vikas ji. Yeah, a lot of the travelers that we get, they are very sensitive about these issues, and they don't want to disturb the local environment. They want to care about it, and they don't only appreciate it, but they also want to help preserve it and support the local communities in whatever way they can. But some tourists are insensitive. Of course, we do also get those kinds of people, but generally the problem is the limited choice. For example, I mean, things that have already been highlighted in this series of webinars already, for example, the Maggie has reached higher than the travelers. Wherever the travelers go, the Maggie is already there, or the plastic water bottle is already there, because it is become a matter of convenience for both the tourism operators and as well as the travelers. So unfortunately, we have been unable to sort of come up with a comprehensive solution. But I think in our approach, what we do is, one, as I said earlier, all our expeditions are inherently waste collection, plastic collection ventures. And that we sort of, whenever we get a traveler group, we sensitize them, and we sort of request them that they play a role model. They become role models for the local community in dealing with the waste and collect the waste. So that is one approach. The other thing is using in terms of the quick foods that we use on the treks or on these expeditions. We try to use the local foods instead of Maggie. For example, we use the local herbs. We are sort of rediscovering the traditional recipes that are delicious as well as healthy, along with local traditional breads that are sort of, again, healthy and delicious. So we create snacks, combinations of sort of these snacks, so that people don't rely or don't have to rely on the Maggie, and they get a cultural experience which is good for their own health, which is good for the local community, which is good for the environment as well. And for the water also, I mean, in our eco village, we don't allow plastic bottled water, because we are in a place which is abundant in natural resources, and we use spring water. We have been using it for last 10 years. We have had absolutely no complaints, no problems regard to the quality of the water. People even feel better. I mean, we also use the same water ourselves. So I think there's also this sensitization angle has for the travelers also needs to take into account the robustness of the natural processes. So we need to, when we are going on a trek, we also need to sort of trust the natural processes. For example, the glacier water, the fresh water is likely to be more healthy than probably even the bottled water in terms of the quality of the water. So I think we need to also account for that, and also sensitize and encourage travelers to not for resources and natural resources and cultural resources. And in terms of sort of, for example, a lot of the people have been talking about that there are no refilling stations, and I think it's logistically a difficult thing to put refilling stations along a trekking route, unless you have populations sort of who live there. So, but what could be probably done is, sunlight, solar energy is an abundant resource, and we could probably create, if you keep water exposed to sunlight, naturally occurring phenomenon are being ignored in sort of as when we are looking for solutions to the problems of the present problems that we have created. Plastic is a problem that we have created and recently.
I think there is
natural processes, that how the water is purified and how so that's what I wanted to highlight. And in addition to that, we, as I said earlier, we also recycle things. So to and then use of cultural resources and natural resources to supply the snacks, the food, and also purify clean, good quality water. So that is part of our approach.
Thank you, sir. My next question is to Mr. Chaitanya. As Shivraya Sustainability as a company majorly works on recycling of scrap and have been focusing on sustainability for a while, what reusable alternatives to disposable options do you recommend for use in tourism industry?
Because before answering that question and before I forget, I would like to reach out to you, Manoj ji, post this session at your convenience. Seek some guidance. So please oblige. And same goes for
sure.
Thank you, sir. Thank you. And so same goes for Faiz ji. I shall be reaching out to you post this session. Thank you. So answering that question, the way I think a simple if we follow us when we are designing the ecosystem. Right now, the talk is about designing of an ecosystem, and the first step that I can see is Life. As I was part of the event and I saw, Life is a very good initiative for involving of the citizens into this entire ecosystem being developed. That is going to play a pivotal role, and it's a beautiful initiative. Number two is when you are designing an ecosystem and when you follow the strong principle that what doesn't go in doesn't go out, what doesn't come in doesn't go out. So that means the plastic doesn't come in, then it won't go out. It's very simple, and then around this you can build everything. And as Mr. Faiz has mentioned, the eco village has that particular principle: no plastics. Very simple. I recall as a child, I'm going a little one-liner in the background. I remember as a child while going in the train, हम हर स्टेशन पे जब भी पानी खत्म होता था बॉटल में, तो वो एक होता था, हम जाके भरते थे, मिल्टन या उसका था, हम जाके टैप में भरते थे. तब तो पानी ठीक था, तब तो हमें कोई तकलीफ नहीं था. तो हमें ये प्रॉब्लम सिर्फ बॉटल पानी आया 15 साल पहले, तभी सबको कॉन्शियस हो गए इतना. एंड लोकल रिसोर्सेज आर फैंटास्टिक. सो आई थिंक अगर इतना कॉन्शियसनेस है तो पहला चीज है कि वो वाटर अवेलेबिलिटी स्टॉक फिल्टर वाटर कर दीजिए. Again, bring it back. It's always been there. Number one is that the moment you have that, and the second is at any tourist destination, use your own bottles. That's the biggest. There are two biggest contributors that you can see: bottles and straws. And of course, the single-use plastic is getting cancelled out, and the remaining plastic. So these are the biggest contributors. So the moment you say at the hotels, most of them follow that principle of setting up. A couple of them are setting up glass bottling plants. That's a big thing. But I would say just come back, have a basic filtering unit, and glass bottles are there. And even if you have your water bottles, you recycle them throughout. That's it. That's the biggest thing. That'll create a big impact. The other thing across the line is, as Atulji had mentioned, that you create an ecosystem of supply. And now, what is the supply? The supply is primarily, what is the rest of the plastic? Is your crockery, cutlery, and primarily in the bigger hotels, the toilet kits. Now, the toilet kits, you simply move away. The moment you walk in, you get that. Move away to completely a biodegradable thing. The moment you do that, you're straight away 200 grams short of plastic. So it is not a very big challenge. Once this is taken in, the community can always walk in and manage the whole ecosystem. So if I say what is the alternative, areca plates and plastic plates in different formats, the leaves in different formats are available throughout the country. It is no brainer. It's always been there. It's just coming back to it and how you reintegrate it back into wherever is the chosen destination. So I think this is a very simple system of cutoff. Number one, what doesn't come in doesn't go out. Strict rule. Number two, reuse. I think it's been put across by all the panelists out here. So these are my inputs on this side. Thank you, Vikas. I'm sorry. And straws is the alternative for straws now is paper, and a lot of places bamboo. To share with you, in Southeast Asia, the shift towards bamboo has happened already 15 years back. So most of the island nations are using bamboo straws now. You'll be surprised. They use it, they wash it up, they put it back. So it's not come in India, but it's been there for the last 15, 20 years whenever I've been there, seen that. So that also is coming back, and that is a big intervention that can come in as well, apart from these. So those are inputs from my end. Thank you. Over to you.
Thank you, sir. Due to the time inbound, we shall open the floor to the participants. So if participants have any questions to the panelists, or they have any inputs, you can just share it. Please just raise your hand. We will unmute you. Yes, we do have a question from our nodal officer, Dr. Aditi. So it is.
It is on our YouTube live session. Participants are asking question there also. So I will copy and paste here. You can ask the experts.
Yes, sure. So this question is from Mr. Kuldeep Gadvi. So his question is, why do we still see single-use plastic around us? How long will it take the government to make it completely banned and ensure its implementation? So anyone from the panelists, I would like to hear it from Mr. Manoj sir.
एक्चुअली मतलब ये गवर्नमेंट के इनिशिएटिव्स हैं और ये अभी शुरू हो चुके हैं, लिए जाने स्टार्ट हो गए हैं. कई स्टेट्स ने इस पर काम करना भी शुरू कर दिया है और इस पे रेगुलेशंस भी बनाए हैं, और मुझे लगता है कि बहुत जल्दी ही ये बाकी स्टेट्स में भी ये लागू हो जाएगा. Yes, over to you, please, Vikas.
Sorry, sir.
Yes, Vikas.
Thank you, sir. So
मेरा उत्तर पूरा हो गया, इसलिए over to you.
The next question is from SB Mount Resort question. How a small tourist destination can start a waste disposal management with minimum expense? I would like to hear it from Mr. Atul.
In fact, it's a very important question because we all know the problems. Solutions is something that we are all grappling with as to what are the best methods to address a problem or a challenge. And I think the question is very important that how do we have a waste management system in a small resort? And there are various approaches. In fact, I would like this resort owner to join our global plastic initiative, which is for the tourism industry. And it will help them not only access information in terms of best practices and what other resorts are doing, but it will also build a lot of capacity around the solutions that are needed for such kind of problems. So I'll certainly urge them to join the global initiative, and CNA has the details in that regard to provide it to the industry. Otherwise, my office can also do it. Coming to the issue, I think there are a few areas that should be started. One is, how do you address a waste problem? Can also be looked at it from another angle, that how can we reduce waste? Because that will then reduce your problem also. So that is the first step, that how do we reduce waste in a resort? And a mapping will need to be done in that regard in terms of what is the kind of plastic you're using in the resort. There was some very interesting information that came in from the other panelists in terms of what kind of single-use plastic or plastic is used in a hotel, small or big. So I think reducing waste is certainly a very good approach. To minimize your whole management system, you will need to address waste management. The second, of course, is of segregation at the source, which is very, very important. It also helps in not only using that segregated waste for making compost, for example, but also reduces your footprint on the whole landfill where these wastes end up into. So I think our endeavor should be to move away from landfills to minimize as much as possible the waste that goes into the landfill. And that can happen only when you have started to segregate waste at the source, and also seeing how you can reuse it at the source. And I think a few of those approaches will be very useful to begin with at a small resort level.
Thank you, sir. Now, we have a few questions from the participants as well. First, I would like to request Mr. Shahid to ask his question. Mr. Shahid, am I audible to you?
Yeah. I mean, am I audible, sir?
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah, thank you. I represent an NGO called Dharti. We are based in Pondicherry and Bangalore. Recently, we did a project for the Department of Tourism, Government of Tamil Nadu, with regard to sustainability of a couple of hill stations. One hill station I would like to make a mention here called Kodaikanal. They have actually banned the 1 liter water bottle, the mineral water bottle of 1 liter entering into the hill area itself. Only 2 liters and above can actually enter the place. That's one point I want to make a reference to. And another point is, we were actually speaking to the collector and his deputy. They made a mention and said the number of Maggi packets that enter the hill stations, not only in the southern part of India, but even in the northern parts, is so humongous that, I mean, I think we need to create an EPR situation, which is the extended producer responsibility situation, wherein I'm sure the leaders who have spoken just now would actually help the industry to come out with ideas to say how all this can be taken away by the producers of the product and ensured that those destinations actually remain plastic free or even garbage free. Thank you for the opportunity.
Thank you for sharing your views, sir. Next, Mr. Dr. Iqbal Butt has raised his hand.
Thank you very much, Mr. Vikas. I am Dr. Iqbal. I'm representing Department of Tourism and Travel Studies, Berhampur University. And Odisha. Let me just first congratulate Mr. Fayaz, because he has started this venture in my native place, that is Ganderbal. I am from that area. Thiuru is my village. He must be knowing me. I hope so. Actually, I had done my PhD on ecotourism with special reference to the district Ganderbal, where Mr. Fayaz has started this initiative, in which I have mentioned theoretically what can be done, and I'm very happy to learn that whatever recommendations I had given in my PhD thesis, Fayaz has practically, implemented and started this venture. I must say congratulations again to him. So I just want to make one important point here, that we know that tourism is actually seasonal in nature. The seasonality concept is very much, attached to the tourism, and we see that majority of the destinations are catering to the mass tourists. So now, since the initiatives, if we go back to 1980s, these initiatives were started, environmental movements were started across the world to promote sustainable tourism practices like ecotourism and responsible tourism. But my concern is that whether it is possible that we can convert these mass tourist destinations into sustainable tourism destinations, so that tourism becomes a year-round activity. If we take a J&K into consideration, we are having a lot of issues there, political issues, weather issues, every kind of issues. So is it possible that mass tourist destinations, we can just, allow these destinations, new destinations to emerge, and we can divert the flow to these new destinations? I have I have concerns about it. No doubt, I know that there are initiatives are there. So if I can say that my question is directly addressed to Fayaz, if he can just help me in this. This is just an observation.
Sorry, can you summarize the question again? I missed part of it.
Summary of my question is that, since we know that tourism is a seasonal in nature, is it possible that these seasonal destinations, we can divert the flow from these seasonal destinations to the destinations like you have come up with this venture? Can we just, divert the flow to these destinations so that the tourism becomes a year-round activity, especially taking Kashmir into consideration? Whether it is possible or not.
Yeah, I think this. Well, first of all, thank you for the acknowledgement and the appreciation. I'm glad, we belong to the same place and you are where you are. And so, I think that a lot of that making, all the destinations sort of function year round depends on the taste of the travelers and the ability of the place to cater to the needs of the travelers and come up with innovative ideas to attract and host travelers. So I think to some extent, yes, it is possible to create sort of incentives for the travelers to explore new destinations or explore destinations in the so-called off-season as well. Because, for example, we have 4 seasons in Kashmir. All 4 seasons have something to offer. It's a process of nature, and things unfold in all 4 seasons. And if we are able to sort of, capture the essence of all the 4 seasons in some way that can speak to the traveler, then I think to some extent we should be able to attract people. But the other side of the story is also because of the seasonal dependence, the initiatives, the tourism initiatives also need to be integrated with the local economy somehow. Because for example, what we have done in our eco villages, we also get a lot of local people visit us, and we have created services and spaces and programs for the locals as well. So we have a balance of travelers and locals coming in and using our services and programs. And plus we have also integrated agriculture with it, natural farming. We practice that. So we have been able to do that as well. So I think if innovation is brought in, if this innovative approach and an entrepreneurial mindset is brought into the sort of design, then to some extent this is possible. But I don't think we can make all the destinations good for all the seasons for everybody. But to some extent, yes, this is possible. So
thank you very much. Yes.
You're welcome.
Thank you, sir.
I have a question here. Can I also jump in, please?
Yeah, please.
I think if I can be allowed to leave, I have a meeting at 11:30. We've already crossed and my other meeting has started. If you can carry on and Vikas, I can leave.
Okay. I had a question for Atulji, but I'll get in touch with you, sir, post the.
Yeah, Chaitanya, let's get in touch bilaterally.
Done, sir. Done.
Yeah.
Thank you, sir.
Okay. Thanks. Bye.
Thank you. Thank you, sir. So we have come to the end of the webinar. Thank you, speakers, for bringing us to a very productive session today. We hope this webinar will bring a constructive outcome which can be used to further strengthen and make the Travel for Life action plan more robust. Ladies and gentlemen, on behalf of the Ministry of Tourism, I would like to extend a vote of thanks to our eminent speakers and viewers for their active participation. To our viewers, if you wish to participate in the upcoming webinar series, please reach out to our team at Sustainable Tourism India account on our social media channels, Facebook, Instagram, LinkedIn, Twitter, and YouTube. See you all in the next episode. Stay tuned.
Thank you.